Cheers, everybody. No, this is not the Asia Cup. It's just some coffee which we needed because it's been a challenging day. It's been a day that's tested our resolve, our mettle as cricket fans or as cricket broadcasters. You're watching Cricbuzz Live. India have won, finally. They've beaten Nepal. No loss by 10 wickets. Duckworth, Lewis, Stain, Sharma, Gill. These are the five names that should be trending on Twitter right now. All Indian fans heave a sigh of relief. Win 147 not out. The target was 145. It was a revised target thanks to Duckworth, Lewis and Stern. And there we are with that win against Nepal, who did compete. So well done to them as well. Commiserations on that loss. But well, it was not a bad win at all. India will take that. Joy Bhattacharjya, Dinesh Karthik in the house. They had to work hard, but there is a win at the end of it.
The first half they had to work hard. I think the second half, especially after the rain had come and interrupted, the way they started things was really good. I think the way the openers found a way to just get past the spin in the power play and then after that took on the fast bowlers was great to see. Some good signs for both the openers. They looked in good touch. Just a bit of confidence heading into the Super 4 stage.
Game time is game time regardless of who the team is, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And not an easy chase. If you look at it, 145 in 23 overs, tricky conditions in and out of the field, a couple of wickets and, things could get very different. So I think they played very calmly. They played well. They didn't take any unnecessary risks except perhaps that one shot that could have been caught at the boundary. But otherwise it was a very professional performance and done so that the minimum amount of heartaches for the Indian fans. And I think this was exactly as DK has been talking about, the first half was a half where they showed what they have. Nepal showed what they have. But in the second half, India showed why exactly they're such a strong side.
The two most felt emotions today would have been uneasiness and anxiety, not just for players, but for us as well. With that long and boring delay, really, we were all waiting to see the covers coming off. It is, I'm sure it's frustrating for players as well. When they came back, they had to be watchful, and it was good that they sort of saw through that phase in the power play overs.
It's very tricky when rain comes down for many reasons. One, you're always thinking will the pitch change its behavior, A. And from a Rohit Sharma point of view, if you see the first over that he played, there were a couple of LBW shouts, there were a couple of balls that just went past his bat. So he would have had time to go, reset and come back. Shubman Gill started rather fluently throughout, but it was important for Rohit Sharma to just go back, just think about what he needs to do. Does he need to change his tactic? And that's what we saw. When he came back in, he started stepping out a lot more to Karan, and the way he took on the fast bowlers, and as always, he is the one who takes the early risk, and he was willing to do that against the leg spinner when he came on and played some good shots. But in many ways, as a cricketer, you would want a rain. You would rather have a day where there is no rain than when it comes down and changes how it affects the context of the game. We remember how the 2019 semi-final rain came in and we had to play it the next day. So it doesn't give us fond memories, but it's good to see that India had a very clinical approach to how they batted.
The revised power play was of 5 overs. India were 31 for no loss. The ball was doing a bit. Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill were looking cautious, not circumspect, but very cautious. Were you worried at that stage? Were you thinking, "Arey yaar, kya ho raha hai?"
Actually, the time we were worried was really the first over. Karan Casey's first over I thought was brilliant, and Rohit has a bit of a tendency right in the beginning. He doesn't step forward that much. He's remained a bit rooted to his crease, and therefore the chances of nicking it on and being an LBW candidate in the back foot or where he's standing would also happen. So I think that was where the heartaches were. I think 2.1 overs, that's when the rain came in. Rohit had just hit a 4. And then once they came back, I felt probably the grip on the ball was also not great. They started cautiously, but once they opened up, they did it really well. And I think that's where they, those next 3, 4, 5 overs that they had, they put their stamp on the game.
Yes, terrific partnership. As I said, India won no loss, a total of 14 boundaries and 6 sixes. And so this perhaps tells you about their shot selection as well.
Very, very impressive. You got to understand, unlike a T20 game in ODIs, in the middle phase, there's an extra fielder in which gives you the opportunity to take on a spinner with a lot more confidence. Because if you clear the mid-wicket fielder, more often than not, it's a boundary. And both these batters used that area, especially Rohit Sharma. Shubman Gill, on the other hand, is somebody who steps out a lot to hit his sixes, and he did that with a lot of aplomb. So you got to give credit to both the batters for sticking to their strengths and putting out a result which will put a smile on a lot of us Indians' faces.
Those cut shots from Shubman Gill were gorgeous. He was the one who sort of started to open things up a little bit.
as we spoke about, right from the outset, he looked very fluent. Now, we spoke in the pre-show, oh, is he out of form? I don't think a man who's out of form would start that way. It tells you that he is very much in form. He is looking good. It's only a matter of a good score, which was round the corner, and he's got it today. And hopefully, he carries this form into Super 4. And as I said, he's a very critical player moving into the World Cup as well.
A few months down the line or a few years down the line, not many will remember this little win against Nepal. But intangibly, would this innings perhaps unlock a certain gear in Rohit Sharma's head? Because runs are runs.
Runs are runs. Time out in the middle is time out in the middle. Wins are wins. All these have to be done. They have to be accomplished. And this 74 may not be. He scored so many really big. But this 74 is an important innings, especially because this is really the start. You get some momentum for your World Cup campaign. You've got some runs. You're feeling good. And it wasn't, as I said, again, an easy situation. It's a bit of a tricky situation. It was any time that you're batting and you're chasing, it's always a bit of a tricky situation. Again, rain curtailed match means the run rate is also, required run rate has gone up. All that being told, I think Rohit will enjoy this win, and it's an important win for India.
Rohit Sharma is also the highest, he's got the most number of sixes in one-day international cricket from India. Rohit Sharma hitting sixes is a thing of beauty.
It's a love story, match made in heaven, you have to say. He's got this free-flowing bat swing, one of the greatest players of the pull shot ever to have come from our soil. And we can be very proud of that because we don't obviously have pitches which aid bounce. And for a man to have come from here and do what he does across the board in international grounds to play the short ball so well. So it's something that he can be really proud of. It's been a very strong facet to his technique and to his batting. And it is not a surprise that he is he's rather hit the most number of sixes because there's not many innings you'll have Rohit Sharma, do well and not hit a six.
Let's take a look at the Nepal bowling card now. It was going to be a 23 over innings. We ended up seeing only 20.1, and I suppose 13 of those overs were spin, and spin unlikely to trouble or challenge batsmen of this caliber.
No, I think what they wanted to do was spin. Obviously, Karan Casey once they have bowled a great spell up front, but what happens is once the ball gets wet and there's not got too much movement, ball skidding on. So neither the spinners were getting too much grip, nor were the fast bowlers, but they have accomplished spinners. Lalit Rajbangshi and Sandeep Lamichhane are pretty accomplished spinners, so they gave them the opportunity to bowl. And what they did manage to do was they managed to force the Indian batsmen to have to hit shots, make shots happen. They couldn't just stand there and play the ball around and get their runs. They had to and both took different routes about it. You know, I mean, Rohit going of course over mid wicket, which is what his want is, mid from square leg to mid wicket. On the other side, you see this one going absolutely straight, and I think that's what they did very well. But that's a good thing about these spinners because these two spinners had control. They forced the Indian batsman. That's all you can do as a bowler. Yep. You can force the batsman to take risks, to jump out of his crease, to at least jump out at you. Then as a bowler you have an opportunity. The fact that the Indian batters executed perfectly is something you can't do very much about.
India have qualified for the Super Fours with this win. Remember, they got 1 point after that washed out game against Pakistan. They have gone through as well. Nepal, this was their first taste of the Asia Cup stage. Lost to Pakistan and India, better teams. Did much better in their second game against India, competed. DK, they've got to be proud of the kind of show they put on. They did compete in the second game. A, what are the learnings? And B, within themselves as a group, what should they look to do from here on in?
For a start, I think it's a commendable effort considering how they were blown away in the first game by Pakistan to have come back and put up a very spirited performance. Kudos to them, especially with the batting department. We always knew that Nepal was going to have a tough time against these two stalwarts of a nation which have been playing ODI cricket for a long period of time. But what they can improve is to have an experience of what it is for the bowlers to bowl to high quality batters, and on the other hand, figure out how it is to play good quality bowling as well. And you can see the likes of Asif, who did really well today. There have been batters from Nepal who have looked good in short stints. So they'll take back a lot of confidence, which will propel the nation forward. for them to improve their cricket. I saw the tweet that Akash Chopra put out, a lovely suggestion saying that India should adopt them as a neighbouring country and make them play India A matches, make them play more, give them more opportunities in India. There are quite a few tournaments that we play domestically which they can be a part of, which will help them grow their cricket. And at the same time, the moment Nepal improves as a nation, they could easily become the next Bangladesh or Afghanistan in international cricket, and that will be something that can be really achieved with the way they're progressing.
Joy, the cricket ecosystem in Asia or at the ICC level will do what it will do, but it all starts within. What should that inner dialogue be in this Nepal camp?
I think the inner dialogue is we've done really well out here. Let's get our players as much exposure as we can to as many tournaments. Emerging Nations is a great tournament for them to play. 8 tours. They should be knocking not just on India's doors, on Pakistan's doors. Remember, Afghanistan also doesn't have too stable a home ground. So come and play with us, come and have matches with us, get as much cricket as possible. The second thing I definitely say and do is, how do you place your players outside? Because I can tell you one thing, that moment a player goes abroad, gets experience and comes back, to international leagues, there's so many T20 leagues around the world, he brings a certain training technique, he brings certain suggestions, he brings certain thoughts and techniques about the game, which always enriches the other players because, they come back. And I've seen that happen with Shakib in Bangladesh so often. You've seen that happen in Afghanistan when Rashid Khan went back, and Noor Ahmed, players like him, they come, that ecosystem forms. So that's also a very important thing. Get as much experience as possible.
Right. So after 5 matches, India and Pakistan have qualified through to the next stage, which is the Super 4 stage. What about the group of death? It's getting interesting there. Match number 6 of the Asia Cup will be played in Lahore between Afghanistan and Sri Lanka. Remember, Sri Lanka beat Bangladesh. Bangladesh beat Afghanistan. A lot rests on this match, especially for Afghanistan. It's slightly confusing. I'll let Joy explain it to you.
Okay, simple one. Basically, Sri Lanka won the first match against Bangladesh very comprehensively. But what Bangladesh has done is Bangladesh have beaten Afghanistan so comprehensively that they are now safe no matter what happens. So they are basically, let's look at the 3 scenarios. If Sri Lanka wins, obviously Sri Lanka go through as the toppers in the group. If Sri Lanka loses, if they lose by a very large margin and Afghanistan beat them by a very large margin, then Afghanistan and Bangladesh go through. On the other hand, if it's a narrow win and the margin of victory is not that much, then Sri Lanka and Bangladesh qualify. So Afghanistan to qualify have to win it by a very, very big margin. I think if you're scoring 350, they have to dismiss them 53 runs before. So that's the kind of margins we are talking about.
Afghanistan, yep. Now we all know what that NRR equation will be. We shall tell you all that in a lot of detail at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow, just half hour before the first ball is bowled. DK, Afghanistan need runs to come through. Zadran did well in that last game. Shahidi, the captain, contributed as well with 54 runs. But the batting perhaps needs a change. If yes, what would that change be for you? Let's pull up that Afghanistan squad graphic and let's get DK to tell us what change he'd make to this lineup.
From a personal point of view, I don't think the batting needs a change. It needs a change in attitude, especially Rahmat Shah and Hashmatullah Shahidi. They need to take on the bowling a lot more at the start. They took a lot of time to get in, which is not really the need of the hour in the previous game, which could be okay next game, but they have to make sure that their intent is on point. If at all I had to make a change, it will be Karim Jannat goes out and we have the fast bowler Abdul Rahman coming in. It looks like they require some firepower at the back end of the innings, which they seem to lack. So if they could make that one change, I think it will be a pretty solid 11 going into that game. And the other thing that they would require in a big way is Fazal Al-Farooqi making sure that he does what he does really well, which is to pick wickets up front but also bowl well in the middle and at the death.
Yes, they conceded 10.3 at the death in that last game. Fazal Al-Farooqi looked a bit lost. Now, the idea that DK has come up with perhaps allows Rashid Khan to bat higher up as well. So they add more strength to their bowling, and I suppose that gives them a little bit a better balance.
Yeah, they have to, because remember, just a win is not enough for them.
Yeah.
They've got to make a comprehensive win. If you've got to make a comprehensive win, you need to be able to bowl out teams, and you need to be able, you're not playing safe. You need the big win. So Sri Lanka can play safe. Afghanistan have to change something. So I totally agree with him. Get that extra bowler in. Hope that Fazal Farooqi gives them a little bit more. And tell your batsmen that anyway 7 batsmen have to do it. If not, Rashid Khan comes in 8 and give the ball an almighty whack. That's the only way to do it. They have to take chances.
Sri Lanka have, meanwhile, won 11 consecutive one-day internationals. Relatively better place as compared to Afghanistan. How about we pull up their squad graphic to see if our experts want to recommend any changes? Runs from the top wouldn't be too bad, Joy.
Wouldn't be too bad, but they've, Nisanka and Karunaratne have been so consistent that it's a rare time that they've sort of failed this time. I still think it's a very, very, very strong squad, and I think with Asalanka, they're getting runs. That immediately means that they've got that middle order stability. I think this is an excellent side. There's not very much to change. Rajita was okay. Given the number of injuries that you had, he was okay. But I think all in all, this is a strong squad. I wouldn't change anything because you want to keep your basic 11-12 players together going into a World Cup campaign.
DK, for you, any changes?
I would stick to the same 11. I think they did a really good job in the first game, and all they need to do is keep continuing what they've been doing so well. Yes, they would miss a Hasaranga throughout this tournament, but it also gives an opportunity for the youngster to come in and do well. Overall, it's a very solid team. They're still finding their feet, especially the Patiranas are finding their feet in ODI cricket. He's a very proven T20 bowler, at least last season in IPL he did well. Here is another opportunity at the world stage for him to showcase his skills. Last game he was a man of the match. This game shouldn't be any different in terms of how well he executes his skill. So I don't see Sri Lanka having too much of a trouble if they go with the same method that they've been following.
What method did you guys follow to get the answer to Joy Factor? That's what we do at the end of the day. Joy, it's time to bring down the curtains on the show. But before that, the answer.
Okay, cricketer who made his test and one-day international debut, played his final test in ODI, all against the same team, South Africa, something with them. He played his last Ranji match almost 12 years after his last test and scored a 50. Identify him. This is one of our domestic greats, one of our domestic legends. Played his last test in 2008. In 2020, he was still playing domestic cricket. Now, this is Wasim Jafar.
Ooh, run machine Wasim Jafar.
Wasim Jafar, and of course, that last innings was not for Mumbai, who he played so many years for. It was for Vidarbha, but a really terrific cricketer.
Who got the answer right? Let's get that guy or girl a thumbs up from Mr. Bhattacharjya.
Niket Patil, I haven't seen that name before, but is that your number? It almost looks like a number. No, I think it's a bit short.
That looks more like his UPI ID. No, you don't get any cash for it. We've been here since, I don't know what time, since 2 in the afternoon. It's been a long day, but it ended up with a win for India. So no complaints. It's almost going to be midnight. What are you doing up so late? Go to sleep. Go to office, school, college, wherever you have to tomorrow morning. But make sure you tune in to Cricbuzz Live at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow. We'll see you then. Good night.